Jake, a 25-year-old mechanic from Columbus, Ohio, had always been the kind of man who preferred working with engines to navigating the complexities of social interactions. His days were usually spent under the hood of old cars, tinkering with motors, and listening to classic rock while the garage filled with the scent of grease and gasoline. The idea of a blind date had seemed strange at first, arranged through a friend's insistence that he needed to get out more. Still, curiosity got the better of him, and he agreed. He didn't know what to expect, only that he was about to meet someone entirely new to him. He arrived at the cozy downtown cafe 15 minutes early, his stomach twisting nervously as he adjusted his leather jacket in the reflection of the window. The streets were buzzing with late afternoon traffic, people rushing home from work, and the golden sunlight reflected off the glass buildings, casting long shadows across the pavement. Jake ran his hands through his short brown hair, trying to calm himself. He wondered what kind of woman would be waiting for him, and briefly worried about what conversations starters would feel natural. Social interactions were a far cry from the controlled environment of a garage. Then he saw her. Emma, 23, rolled into the cafe with an elegance that caught him off guard. Her wheelchair was sleek, electric, and effortlessly gliding across the uneven sidewalk. Her dark hair framed her face perfectly, and she had a smile that seemed both genuine and warm. For a moment Jake froze, not because of any prejudice, but because he hadn't expected the first thing to notice was how composed and confident she appeared. She looked up, noticed him staring, and waved, her smile widening. It was as if she knew his nerves before he even spoke a word. "Hi, I'm Emma," she said, her voice melodic but casual. Jake stood quickly, almost knocking over his coffee cup in his nervousness. "Jake," he managed to say, extending a hand, which she shook firmly. He noticed her grip was strong, affirming her confidence, and it made him feel slightly less anxious. They made their way to a quiet corner table, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked pastries filling the space. Jake took a deep breath, reminding himself that first impressions mattered, but he also wanted to just be himself. As they settled into conversation, the initial awkwardness faded quickly. Emma had a way of talking that drew him in effortlessly. She laughed easily, asked thoughtful questions, and shared little anecdotes about her childhood and university experiences. Jake found himself opening up about his life as a mechanic, the long hours in the garage, and the satisfaction of restoring cars. He was surprised at how easy it felt to speak with her, how her presence encouraged him to relax. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about impressing anyone. He was just enjoying the connection. Emma noticed Jake's initial hesitation and gently teased him about being nervous, making him laugh. She spoke about her love for painting and photography, describing the way light and shadows could change the feel of a scene, and Jake was captivated. Despite her wheelchair, Emma exuded independence, strength, and a subtle vulnerability that made her even more human in Jake's eyes. He realized he hadn't been thinking about her disability at all, only about the person in front of him. This moment marked a shift in perception he hadn't anticipated, teaching him a lesson about empathy and openness in the simplest, most unexpected way. When the conversation turned to shared interests, Jake discovered that Emma had a soft spot for classic cars, particularly Mustangs and old Chevys. Her eyes lit up when he described some of the cars he had restored in his garage. She asked detailed questions about engines, paint jobs, and modifications, showing genuine curiosity. Jake found himself explaining enthusiastically, demonstrating a side of himself he often kept private. Emma listened intently, occasionally laughing or nodding, and Jake realized that this shared passion was building a bridge between them, one that transcended the initial awkwardness of the blind date. As the afternoon sun shifted, casting a warm glow over the cafe, Jake felt a connection growing between them. The initial nervousness that had gripped him melted away, replaced by a sense of comfort and familiarity he hadn't expected from a first meeting. Emma's warmth, humor, and intelligence created an environment where he could be authentic. He noticed the little gestures she made, the way she adjusted her hair, the sparkle in her eyes when she laughed, the ease with which she navigated the cafe in her wheelchair. Each detail made him more intrigued and captivated by her presence. By the time they finished their coffee, Jake felt that the date had surpassed all expectations. Emma's wheelchair, which had initially caused him a brief pause of surprise, had become irrelevant to the connection they had formed. What mattered was the person she was, kind, engaging, and genuine. Jake walked with her to the sidewalk outside the cafe, holding the door and chatting as if they had known each other for years. The golden light of the setting sun reflected off the buildings, and their laughter filled the air. In that moment, Jake realized that this blind date had already become something extraordinary, setting the stage for an unexpected journey neither of them could have predicted. After their coffee, Jake insisted that Emma visit his garage, curious to see the place where he spent most of his time. She agreed enthusiastically, intrigued by his passion for classic cars and the stories he had shared. The short drive was filled with laughter and casual conversation, the kind that only comes when two people feel a growing comfort around each other. Emma maneuvered her wheelchair skillfully through the streets, clearly confident and independent. Jake couldn't help but admire not only her courage, but also her curiosity. He felt a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation, wondering how the afternoon would unfold in the familiar scent of oil and metal. Once inside the garage, Emma's eyes lit up at the sight of rows of gleaming cars, each meticulously maintained. Jake began showing her around, explaining the differences between engines and the intricacies of restoring old vehicles. Emma asked insightful questions, occasionally leaning closer to inspect a detail or examining a car's interior. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and Jake found himself speaking with a passion that surprised even him. He realized that sharing his world with someone genuinely interested was a rare and exhilarating experience. Emma's presence brought a new energy to the garage, transforming it from a solitary sanctuary into a space filled with laughter and conversation. As they moved toward the back of the garage, Emma mentioned a minor issue she had noticed with her wheelchair while arriving, a slight wobble in the steering that made turning awkward. Jake's mechanic instincts immediately kicked in, and he offered to take a look. "If you're okay with it, I can see what's wrong and maybe fix it," he said. Emma nodded, smiling gratefully. He crouched beside her chair, flashlight in hand, inspecting the wiring and the alignment of the motor. His hands moved with confidence and precision, checking every connection, every screw. Emma watched him intently, intrigued by his focus and skill. Jake noticed a few corroded connectors and a slightly misaligned wheel, which explained the wobble. He explained the problem to Emma in simple terms, making sure she understood each step. She listened attentively, asking questions when she didn't fully grasp a detail. Jake appreciated her curiosity, realizing she wasn't just passively observing. She wanted to learn. Carefully, he removed the damaged components and replaced them with spare parts he kept in his toolbox. The process required patience, precision, and attention to detail, qualities that Jake had honed over years of working with machines. Emma admired his methodical approach, her respect for him growing with each careful adjustment. As Jake tightened the final screws and tested the wiring, he looked up at Emma, smiling. "Give it a try," he said. She hesitated for a moment, then gently pressed the joystick. The wheelchair moved smoothly, turning effortlessly as it should. Emma's eyes widened in surprise and delight. "Oh my gosh, it's perfect! I can't believe it!" she exclaimed. Jake shrugged modestly, feeling a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the garage heater. He realized that helping her wasn't just about fixing a machine. It was about making her life easier, even if in a small way. Emma tested the wheelchair, carefully rolling forward and backward, making tight turns, and gliding across the garage floor. Each movement was fluid, precise, and effortless, a stark contrast to the wobble she had experienced earlier. She turned to Jake, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You didn't have to do this, but you did." "Thank you," she said softly. Jake felt a wave of humility and pride at the same time. He realized that moments like these, where his skills could genuinely impact someone's life, were far more meaningful than any paycheck or project he had completed in the past. After the repair, they spent the next hour walking around the garage, examining cars and sharing personal stories. Jake talked about the challenges of running a small garage, the joy of restoring forgotten vehicles, and the satisfaction of seeing a project come together. Emma shared experiences from her own life, including the independence she maintained despite her wheelchair and the adventures she pursued without letting her disability define her. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, bridging gaps and creating a bond neither had anticipated. Laughter, shared curiosity, and genuine interest made the garage feel alive with connection, transforming it into a space of warmth and companionship. As the afternoon faded into early evening, the garage lights cast a soft glow over the vehicles and tools. Emma rolled to a window, watching the sunset reflect off a polished Mustang hood. Jake stood beside her, feeling a quiet contentment, realizing that the day had become something more than a simple blind date. It had evolved into a shared experience, a memory of mutual respect, understanding, and kindness. The initial surprise of seeing Emma in a wheelchair had long since faded, replaced by admiration for her character and the connection forming between them. By the time they left the garage, Jake and Emma were no longer just a man and woman meeting for the first time. They had shared laughter, curiosity, and a meaningful moment of trust. Jake helped Emma into her wheelchair, offering his arm as they moved toward the door. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over Columbus streets. In that quiet, ordinary moment, Jake realized that this blind date had unexpectedly turned into something extraordinary. Their bond was growing, built on empathy, kindness, and a shared sense of adventure that neither of them could have predicted. After leaving the garage, Jake insisted on giving Emma a ride home. She smiled, appreciating the gesture but insisting she could manage. Jake only nodded, not wanting to push, yet subtly hoping to spend a bit more time together. They drove through the streets of Columbus as twilight settled in, the city lights reflecting off the windshield. Conversation flowed easily, laughter punctuating quiet moments. Jake found himself glancing at Emma frequently, marveling at how effortlessly she had transformed his day. What began as a simple blind date had evolved into something unexpectedly profound. He realized that genuine connection often appeared in the most unanticipated ways. As they approached Emma's apartment, Jake noticed how comfortable he felt around her. She talked about her plans for the week, upcoming photography projects, and friends she planned to visit. Jake listened, genuinely interested, offering insights and suggestions without dominating the conversation. Their rapport had grown naturally, built on mutual respect and understanding. He realized he had learned more about empathy in the past few hours than he had in years of casual social interactions. Emma's warmth and openness made him feel seen in a way few people ever had. The ride had become a shared moment, quiet yet profoundly meaningful. Emma's building loomed ahead, a modest brick complex with warm lights glowing from the windows. Jake helped her navigate the ramp, his hands steady and patient. She laughed lightly as he joked about the garage, turning him into a professional helper. The laughter broke any lingering tension, replacing it with ease and comfort. Once inside the lobby, Emma turned to Jake with a grin. Thanks for today, Jake. I had a really amazing time, she said sincerely. Jake smiled back, his heart beating faster than he expected. Me too, he replied. It was remarkable how quickly someone could make a lasting impression, and Emma had done so effortlessly. Before leaving, Jake offered to help Emma settle in her apartment, but she insisted he stay for just a moment. She showed him her small but charming living room, decorated with framed photographs and vibrant paintings. Each piece told a story, reflecting her interests and personality. Jake admired the details, noticing how her independence extended to her creativity and lifestyle. Emma moved around her apartment with ease in her wheelchair, and Jake was struck by her confidence and self-reliance. He realized that while he had been helping her physically with the wheelchair earlier, she had been helping him emotionally all day, opening his eyes to connection, understanding, and shared humanity. They sat briefly in her living room talking about trivial things, favorite movies, music, and places they dreamed of visiting. The conversation eventually drifted to more personal topics, hopes, fears, and the small vulnerabilities people often hide from the world. Jake shared stories of challenges running his garage and the satisfaction of overcoming mechanical puzzles. Emma spoke about her journey, living with a disability, the challenges and the triumphs. Their discussion created a mutual understanding, each seeing the other's life in a new light. What started as casual chatter had evolved into a heartfelt exchange, deepening their bond beyond surface-level attraction. As evening turned into night, Jake realized he didn't want the moment to end. He offered Emma a ride back to her favorite park nearby, a place where she often went to relax and watch the city lights reflect off the river. She agreed, intrigued by the idea of watching the skyline together. They drove in comfortable silence, occasionally commenting on the streets or a passing car. When they arrived, Emma rolled out of the truck and positioned herself on a small hill overlooking the river. The scene was quiet, illuminated by city lights and the faint glow of street lamps, providing a peaceful backdrop for reflection. They sat together, sharing quiet moments as the city pulsed gently below them. Jake found himself opening up in ways he rarely had, speaking about hopes for the future and the type of life he wanted to build. Emma listened intently, offering support and thoughtful feedback, her presence grounding him. For her part, Emma shared personal anecdotes that highlighted her resilience and determination, revealing layers of strength Jake found inspiring. Each moment, each exchange, deepened the trust and connection between them. The world felt paused, the city lights and night air creating a bubble where only the two of them existed. Eventually, Emma turned to Jake, smiling softly. "I had a wonderful day," she said. "I didn't expect a blind date to be this easy, fun, and meaningful." Jake chuckled, feeling a warmth that went beyond attraction. "Neither did I," he admitted. He realized that this experience had changed his perspective on blind dates, on assumptions, and on the value of genuine human connection. The wheelchair, which had initially been a point of surprise, now seemed irrelevant. Emma's character, her warmth, and their shared experiences were what mattered most, leaving a lasting impression on him. By the time Jake drove Emma home later that night, both felt a quiet satisfaction and anticipation for what could come next. The evening had transformed from a simple, blind date into an unforgettable experience rooted in trust, kindness, and shared moments of vulnerability. As they said their goodbyes, Jake promised to call her the next day, eager to continue exploring this unexpected connection. Emma's eyes sparkled with gratitude and curiosity, reflecting the same anticipation. In that brief encounter, both realized that life's surprises often led to the most meaningful relationships, proving that genuine connection can change perspectives, hearts, and lives in ways nothing else can.